Okay, let's unpack this. We've been handed an extraordinary stack of sources detailing a vast, interconnected crisis spanning continents, blending historical assassinations, deep personal grief, and the very real threat of nuclear terror.
Hmm.
This is the ultimate deep dive into a secret world, tracing a line from a peaceful Bermudan cottage right to the heart of the British monarchy, and then all the way across the globe to the rugged mountains of the Hindu Kush.
And what's fascinating here, what really stands out is the sheer scale of the operation.
Yeah.
You're drawing together three really distinct elements.
Right.
First, you have a world-weary intelligence officer in profound personal crisis. Then there's this decades-old act of political violence, the ripple effect of the 1979 murder of Lord Mountbatten,
A ghost from the past, basically.
a very active one. And third, you have the modern evolving face of global militancy, which all culminates in the threat of a nuclear-armed rogue state. This mission, it challenges the core foundations of Western intelligence, demanding both, old-school operational prowess and cutting-edge technology.
So our mission today, then, is clear. We need to introduce our central figure, Commander Alex Hawke, and track two major. And at first, they seem completely disparate threat vectors that collide spectacularly.
You really do.
So first, we have the re-emerging domestic terror threat. It's symbolized by this figure, the pawn, who's targeting the royal family, and it's tied to these really deep-seated historical grievances.
And then at the same time,
And at the same time, this immediate existential international operation to track a stolen nuclear device from Pakistan and counter the terrifying ideological influence of the Sword of Allah, or SOA.
and the documents we have, they really suggest that these are not separate crises at all. They're two sides of the same coin. They're coordinated by a puppet master who knew exactly how to use geopolitical chaos to achieve a very personal, decades-long revenge.
To understand the conspiracy, though, we have to start with the man who is forced to confront it.
We have to understand Hawke.
So when we first encounter Commander Alex Hawke, he is about as far from a high-functioning intelligence agent as you can possibly imagine.
Oh, completely.
He's in this self-imposed exile at a place called Tea Kettle Cottage in Bermuda, engaged in what the sources call a state of profound malaise. He's actively seeking oblivion through a regimen of deliberate self-destruction.
It's not just that he's drinking either.
Yeah.
It's more systematic than that. It's a performance of calculated indulgence. The sources are incredibly precise about the mechanics of his despair.
In what way?
Well, he's mixing up these frosty daiquiris, right?
Mhm.
And he insists they must be made with the beautiful local bananas and a very heavy measure of Gosling's rum. It's a taste of the islands, but it's designed to just blur reality.
And then it shifts at night.
Then, yeah, when night falls, he transitions to Bombay Sapphire martinis, which are, notoriously clear and cold. They offer this temporary, almost surgical numbness. It's a very deliberate process.
And the physical act of his malaise is captured perfectly by his decision to take up chain smoking, which is something he had deliberately abstained from during his operational years.
Yeah, he calls them cancer sticks.
He does. He refers to them openly as cancer sticks, and the text highlights him inhaling deeply, holding the smoke inside his lungs for as long as he possibly can.
It's like he's daring death to come for him.
Exactly. He's ruining all the years he wasted being healthy, as if daring the next tragedy, his own death, to just arrive quickly. It tells you he has completely given up hope in finding any future joy.
And this profound attachment, it's deeply rooted in trauma. His personal history reads like a masterclass in relentless sorrow. The baseline trauma is the murder of his parents.
Right in front of him.
Right in front of him when he was only 7 years old. An event that even decades later he describes as feeling like a steel ball lodged in the center of his chest. That incident, it really set the stage for a lifetime of fighting, but the adult tragedies, they're what really broke him.
And the sources detail two consecutive romantic tragedies that truly cemented his isolation and despair because they just shattered his capacity for connection.
It's almost unbelievable.
It is. He finally allows himself to love, marries his first wife, and she is killed in his arms on the steps of the chapel where they'd just been wed.
And then, just as an almost cruel twist of fate, he falls in love again, and she, carrying his child, is also lost.
Think about that sequence of loss for a moment.
It's devastating. It would suggest to him, perhaps, that anyone he dares to love is just doomed, that his own capacity for connection is itself a weapon of tragedy.
So when he eventually sees this doctor, Dr. Nigel Prestwick, he's C's personal physician from London, now practicing in Bermuda. Hawke just dismisses any attempts at psychological help.
Yeah, he just shuts it down. He tells Prestwick he has lost everything he has ever loved, and he flatly rejects the idea of amateur psychiatry.
Right, because the diagnosis is obvious to him.
Exactly. His soul is broken, and no therapy can fix what destiny seems so determined to repeat.
His detachment extends even to the simple act of keeping time. He stopped wearing wristwatches long ago. He sees watches and clocks as an anachronism.
He argues, 9 times out of 10, what's the bloody point of knowing the time anyway? It's a symptom, isn't it?
It's a total symptom of his mental exile. If the past is too painful and the future holds no promise, why bother marking the minutes?
And yet, despite this state of decay, his physical description still signals this latent power.
Oh, absolutely. He's tall, well over 6 feet, thick black hair, a fine highbrow, but it's the contrast in his features that's the most striking.
The mouth.
The mouth. He has a sensuous mouth, which the sources note harbors hints of suppressed cruelty lurking at the edge of every flashing grin. It implies that his operational ruthlessness is a deep, almost instinctual part of him, even when it's masked by charisma.
And then there are those legendary ice blue eyes. Even in his stupor, those eyes are capable of suddenly widening and sending a searing flash across an entire room. It's a reminder that the highly dangerous professional predator is still hiding right beneath the surface of the Morning Man.
This isolation could have continued indefinitely, but the sources are really clear that the catalyst for his return wasn't some internal realization.
No, it was external. It was a deeply trusted and profoundly intimate intervention.
And that role is filled by his snowy-haired octogenarian butler, Pelham Grenville.
A classic character.
He is. And Pelham has watched this despair settle over Tea Kettle Cottage, and he finally acts. He sits on the edge of the bed and patiently convinces Hawke to take a call. And not just any call.
No, a call from Charles, the heir to the throne.
The significance of this call, you really can't overstate it. It's not just a job offer.
No, it's a plea.
Oh.
It's a plea from a family that Hawke feels bound to protect, given his ancestral connection to the British establishment. The threat against the monarchy provides the necessary external urgent fight that his internal grief just could not provide.
And the shift is instantaneous. It's almost clinical in its decisiveness.
Oh, amazing.
The minute he hangs up the phone, Hawke declares he is quitting smoking and drinking, effective immediately. He commits to shedding 20 pounds and reinstating his punishing fitness regimen.
Which is swimming 6 miles daily up the coast to Bloody Bay and back.
Yeah, it's an insane regimen. The trauma hasn't vanished, but the call of duty has given the predator a reason to emerge from hibernation.
It proves that Hawke doesn't need therapy or platitudes. He needs a mission. He needs a tangible threat to fight, preferably one he can kill, to channel the immense pent-up rage and grief from his own lifetime of loss.
And this quick reversal from self-destruction to high-level readiness, that's what defines him. He is returning home to Hawksmoor, his family's ancestral estate in Gloucestershire.
But he's walking straight into a conspiracy rooted in history.
So Hawke's journey back to England immediately plunges him into a crisis that is both immediate and profoundly historical. Prince Charles receives a threat.
Signed the pawn.
Signed the pawn. And critically, the handwriting appears identical to a prior note linked to the 1979 murder of his godfather, Lord Mountbatten.
And this linkage is the absolute core of the domestic conspiracy. For our listeners who may not recall the specifics, Lord Mountbatten was killed in a very calculated attack. He was on his boat, Shadowy, near Mullimore, when a remote radio-controlled bomb detonated.
And the IRA claimed credit almost immediately.
They did, which provided a convenient political context for the assassination. But this is where it gets complicated.
Right, because we turn here to Ambrose Congreve, who's Hawke's oldest friend and a former chief inspector of Scotland Yard. He was on the original 1979 investigation team.
And he provides the crucial historical insight. Congreve confirms that while 2 IRA provisionals were charged, only one, Thomas McMahon, was convicted and imprisoned. The second suspect, McGurl, he walked free.
But Congreve always had doubts.
He had serious doubts. His experience on the ground led him to suspect that the man who built the explosive device, McMahon, was indeed IRA, but the man who actually triggered the remote bomb, the pawn. He might have had an entirely different non-political motivation. The IRA claiming credit was simply a useful diversion for the true killer.
And this detail is so critical because it forces you to rethink the entire Mountbatten tragedy. It wasn't just Irish terrorism.
No, it was perhaps a calculated assassination using the IRA as cover. And to understand the depth of feeling involved, You have to look at Mountbatten's historical role, particularly his involvement as the last viceroy of India and the architect of the 1947 partition.
Exactly. Mountbatten is still a really controversial figure in history. While he was revered by the royal family, his actions leading to the rapid and bloody division of British India into India and Pakistan are viewed by many historians, and certainly by those directly affected, as a cataclysmic failure.
A failure that led to unparalleled violence and displacement. The sources suggest that the deep-seated anger over the partition, the millions killed, the communities torn apart, it never truly healed. So if the pawn's motive is personal, it is very likely rooted in this historical trauma.
So Hawke returns to Hawksmoor, his ancestral home. The sources describe it beautifully. Built in 1150, set among these famous capability brown gardens, it's a physical embodiment of the old British establishment that the conspirators are seeking to destroy.
And that contrast is important because Hawke, the symbol of that old establishment, is immediately targeted upon his return. Congreve, driving his beloved bright yellow Morgan, the Yellow Peril, he meets Hawke.
And they drive to Highgrove, Prince Charles's residence, in Hawke's Bentley, which he calls the locomotive.
And this is where the action kicks off.
They are ambushed by attackers in a Jaguar. But the locomotive isn't just a luxury car. It's an operational necessity.
Absolutely. It's heavily armored.
Yeah.
It boasts triple laminated bulletproof glass and extensive armor plating, all installed by the Royal Garages specialist.
And that detail, the fact that it was the Royal Garages specialist, tells you that the threat level against the royal family and anyone closely associated with them is a constant known quantity. They live under a permanent threat assessment.
The armor saves them, of course.
But the truly defining moment comes from Hawke's immediate analytical deduction.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
The attackers focused their fire on the passenger side where Congreve was sitting. And Hawke correctly deduces that the assassin, whom they identify as Smith, wasn't necessarily aiming for him.
He was aiming to silence Congreve.
Exactly. To silence Congreve, who had been actively investigating the lingering questions around the 1979 case.
Which confirms two terrifying things. One, the enemy is extremely well informed, likely an insider. And two, the old investigation is still a live wire that the conspirators fear might unravel their decades-old plan.
The attack wasn't random at all.
No, it was a targeted effort to remove the historian of the conspiracy.
This violent incident forces the high-level meeting at Highgrove to assemble the key players. And this is a veritable who's who of British intelligence and royalty.
Oh, everyone's there.
Alongside Prince Charles, Hawke, and Congreve, we meet the heads of the intelligence community.
You have Sir David Truelove, known simply as C, the chief of MI6, who handles foreign intelligence and operations. Then there's Lord Malmsey of MI5, responsible for domestic security and counter-espionage.
A critical role considering the threat is now definitively internal.
And then you have the specific expertise they brought in.
Dr. Sahira Karim, she's MI5's new director of domestic intelligence, and she's introduced not just as an intelligence expert, but critically as a nuclear expert.
And her presence immediately hints at the true scale of the looming international threat.
And finally, Montague Thorne, C's protege.
Thorne is immediately striking. Tall, well-built, known as the MI6 expert on Pakistani, Indian, and Afghani matters. And he wears a black silk eye patch, which gives him this dramatic, rakish, almost piratical air.
Like a character from an old film or something.
Exactly. Errol Flynn. This visual detail is important. It symbolizes a dangerous confidence and worldliness that should, immediately raise flags.
Sahira Karim's focus immediately pulls the conversation toward the second threat, the domestic radical Muslim threat, particularly within the heavily Pakistani-inhabited regions of Britain.
And she issues a chilling assessment. She states that British prisons are rapidly becoming recruiting and training centers for militants and suicide bombers, a self-funding, government-enabled pipeline of terror.
But Hawke needs to confirm the Mountbatten threat first. He and Congreve have to follow the trail back to the source. Thomas McMahon, the convicted bomber, who is now free.
So they travel to Northern Ireland and corn McMahon in a pub. It's a very old-school meeting, requiring persuasion and, according to the sources, a fair bit of whiskey.
And McMahon, under pressure, he doesn't admit to knowing the broader serial killer who might be the pawn, but he does admit that a man named Smith sought his help back in 1979.
And Smith's intention was clear. He offered the IRA the opportunity to claim credit for the bombing to divert suspicion away from his own private agenda.
Which confirms everything. It solidifies Congreve's long-held suspicion that the Mountbatten murder was never simply a Republican attack.
And here is the actionable intelligence they desperately needed. McMahon reveals that this same Smith, who is now active again and planning a new plot, is currently hiding out at an IRA safe house, the Barking Dog Inn.
The pawn is identified, localized, and the immediate focus for Hawke's team is established.
So Hawke has his target, Smith, a.k.a. the Pawn, the man responsible for decades of terror against the crown.
But before he can even launch the raid on the Barking Dog Inn, the priority of the crisis shifts drastically. The danger the world is facing is no longer political assassination.
It's nuclear annihilation.
And the transition from the domestic hunt for the pawn to the international search for the bomb is abrupt, isn't it?
It is, because the sheer scale of the global threat demands immediate attention. But the two threats, as we mentioned, are ideologically connected through this concept of the prison pipeline, which is flourishing in the United States just as much as it is in Britain.
So we shift our focus across the Atlantic, where U.S. intelligence is battling the emergence of the Sword of Allah, or SOA.
This is a new Muslim gang that has rapidly consolidated power within the American prison system. Our sources estimate that in just 2 or 3 years, their membership inside U.S. prisons has exploded to over 5,000, and it's still climbing.
This phenomenon of prison radicalization, it's a key ideological vector for the larger conspiracy. It's not just gang activity.
No, it's a systematic indoctrination process where the sources note prisons are functioning as highly effective terror training schools. These facilities, funded by taxpayers, are being used to train budding Islamic fanatics in bomb building, tactical maneuvers, and strategic terror planning.
And the SOA has already moved beyond recruiting to large-scale atrocities, horrifying the American public.
The most notable example of the Jackson Memorial Hospital attack in Miami, which resulted in the killing of hundreds of innocent civilians. And this was spearheaded by 2 Gitmo escapees who found their way back into the U.S. to execute this strike.
The political environment reflects this anxiety. President McCloskey is on record asserting that this movement constitutes the third wave of domestic terrorism following the initial post-9/11 threat. And he views it as the single biggest existential threat to national security.
And the strategy of the SOA is insidious.
Yeah.
Do the crime, do the time, get radicalized in prison, get released, and then, as the sources chillingly note, blow us up from the inside out.
It's in this high-stakes environment that we meet the crucial American assets. CIA EA agents Stokely Jones and Harry Brock.
A great team. Stokely Jones is a sharp operative with a background in Harlem, while Harry Brock is the witty California native from a comfortable gated community. A dynamic, if mismatched, partnership.
Stoke, using the deep cover alias Smokehouse, undertakes one of the most dangerous assignments imaginable.
He willingly infiltrates the Glades prison system after a friend, Sharkey, is stabbed. His mission is to rise through the ranks to penetrate SOA leadership, including these shadowy figures known as the Wizard and Ishtar, to uncover the full scope of their domestic terror plans.
And the intelligence he gains confirms the scale of their depravity. They discover SOA is specifically planning attacks on children and schoolhouses.
For example, the sources detail a recently foiled plot to take down New Trier High School, involving AK-47s and suicide belts. A massacre only prevented because the FBI managed to foil the operation just 2 days prior to execution.
The strategic goal of attacking soft targets like schools is simple, isn't it?
It's to maximize trauma and paralyze civilian life.
But the breakthrough intelligence, the thing that connects the U.S. domestic threat directly to the global nuclear threat, it comes from a particularly brutal interrogation that really challenges operational boundaries.
Yeah, Stoke and Harry managed to capture the diminutive prison imam, a known terrorist responsible for the Atlanta recruiting station bombing.
And they decide to use an extreme technique described in the source material as keel hauling, conducted off their surveillance boat.
Which is an ancient, horrifying method of interrogation, running the man under the boat in the water, dragging him repeatedly until he is near death.
The use of such a tactic really underscores the extreme urgency and the perceived existential threat of the information they were seeking.
And under this duress, the imam breaks. He reveals 2 critical names central to the global conspiracy: Smith and Scimitar.
But more importantly,
he gives them the key geographical nexus for the international threat. Sheikh al-Rashad is a nomad who, despite his immense power, is currently hiding out at a hospital in Islamabad, Pakistan.
And just like that, the intelligence lines cross. See, Sir David Truelove gets the intelligence, and he immediately recognizes the existential stakes. A terrorist hiding in Pakistan is one thing.
A terrorist hiding in Pakistan who might have acquired a nuclear device is another matter entirely.
Hawke's pursuit of the pawn of Smith in Northern Ireland is instantly deprioritized. The nuclear threat demands absolute immediate focus.
And this strategic diversion highlights the severe risk assessment being conducted in London and Washington. Political assassination, while devastating, is survivable. A nuclear device falling into the hands of a radical warlord capable of creating the world's first nuclear rogue state
Is not.
is not. So Hawke is diverted mid-mission, and the next chapter of the operation begins, the search for the missing nuke.
The convergence of threats is now complete. Hawke is informed of the critical development. A powerful tactical nuclear device has been stolen from Pakistan's arsenal.
And the storage facility, located near the Islamabad airport, had its security compromised by a coordinated attack involving Taliban warlords.
The target of this search is Sheikh al-Rashid, known terrifyingly as the Lion of the Punjab.
And al-Rashid's ambition is enormous and concrete. He intends to use this nuclear weapon to forcibly seize control of Pakistan, dissolving the existing government and establishing the world's first nuclear-armed Islamic rogue state.
And given that Pakistan already possesses a nuclear arsenal, the geopolitical implications of this theft are...
Well, they're catastrophic.
So Hawke is immediately flown out of RAF Aberdeenshire on an RAF Hercules, meeting up with the American assets Stoke and Harry and others at Shamsi Air Force Base in Pakistan. This mission, it necessitates a truly multinational, high-risk operational team.
The team composition really reflects the global nature of the threat, doesn't it?
It does. You have Hawke, the British deep cover agent. You have Stoke Jones and Harry Brock, the CIA DE specialists. Dr. Sahira Karim, the MI5 domestic intelligence director, is brought along specifically because of her expertise as a nuclear scientist.
And finally, Abdul Dakhan, a CIA asset, a tall Moroccan agent notably missing his right arm, a veteran of previous conflicts who understands the local terrain.
And the intel from the interrogated imam proves to be precise. The sheikh is hiding in the Quaidi Azam Hospital, an ultra-modern facility that the sheikh himself had funded and built.
So he's hiding in plain sight.
In a way. He is concealed in a heavily fortified bunker situated deep beneath the hospital, protected by the assumption that no Western government would dare bomb a civilian medical facility.
The infiltration relies on exceptional tradecraft, moving silently through a space dedicated to life and death. Hawke uses a fabricated press ID to gain entry to the hospital.
Then he bribes a sullen, uncooperative receptionist, forcing her to reveal the location of a restricted area. The entry point is located in the morgue, marked by the chilling, understated sign, mortuary restricted.
The hidden elevator leading down to the bunker, though, it requires high-level biometric security, a fingerprint scan.
And this is where Hawke's hardened operational nature shines, utilizing a dark, necessary trick of the trade.
The team manages to locate the body of a recently deceased guard, one of the Sheikh's inner circle, presumably, who died moments before.
Stoke drags the corpse into position, and Hawke utilizes the dead man's hand to bypass the biometric security system.
And this detail shows Hawke's cold, professional willingness to use the means necessary to achieve the mission, regardless of how disturbing it may be.
Once inside the bunker complex, their objective is confirmed. Sahira Karim's expertise is immediately vital. She deploys a specialized UGV and unmanned ground vehicle.
Which is crucial for clearing traps, detecting toxic gas, and assessing bomb threats.
Right. The UGV scans ahead and detects gamma rays, confirming the proximity of radioactive material and signaling a massive, lead-shielded vault door.
And the existence of the lead shielding confirms that they are not looking for documents or gold.
No. They're looking for a powerful nuclear device. Hawke's team prepares to breach the inner sanctum. They use a specialized rocket-propelled slug specifically engineered to punch a 1-foot-wide hole through 3 feet of steel-reinforced concrete.
They breach the vault, but they're too late.
Too late. The Lion of the Punjab, living up to his wily nickname, has escaped right under their noses.
And they discover that he had been traveling through the hospital unseen by using a heavy-duty dark green body bag moved by his compliant medical staff, capitalizing on the assumption that no one would investigate a body being transported.
It's brilliant in its simplicity. And his escape vehicle is a bizarre and terrifying operational choice. The battle wagon.
The battle wagon. It's a heavily armored Mercedes-Benz V12-powered 1958 black Cadillac hearse.
The choice of a hearse is chillingly symbolic. It represents death and anonymity, and its heavy armor and German engineering make it the perfect vehicle for his high-speed, protected journey north into the treacherous Hindu Kush mountains.
So the pursuit begins immediately heading towards Wazizabad, which the captured imam identified as the sheikh's mythical, heavily protected command and control bunker.
And Hawke's team links up with a local militia led by a man named Patu.
And Patu's men are invaluable, right?
Absolutely. They're hardened veterans who possess a volcanic hatred for the Taliban, stemming from the atrocities they have witnessed and endured, like public stonings and beheadings. This partnership provides Hawke with crucial local knowledge and ground support necessary to navigate the hostile terrain.
During this relentless pursuit, they stumble upon a really troubling anomaly in a deserted fort.
They find abandoned British Army uniforms and weapons, alongside drunken Taliban fighters indulging in hashish and Johnny Walker whiskey.
And this is a critical moment of contextual realization.
It is. The uniforms and the Johnny Walker strongly suggest a recent direct link between British-connected personnel and these radical terrorist elements. It signals that this is not just a fight against foreign extremists.
There's an insider.
There's an insider, someone capable of providing material support and intelligence from within the UK establishment, linking right back to the Smith they had been hunting.
The pursuit culminates in a brutal raid on the Taliban redoubt. They face Colonel Zazi, al-Rashad's brilliant and brutal second-in-command.
And Zazi's a fascinating figure, a Sandhurst graduate.
Meaning he was educated and trained in the highest traditions of the British military.
And now he's applying that knowledge against the West in a savage capacity.
Zazi leads a charge of a powerful alliance composed of Taliban, al-Qaeda, and Punjabi militants. And Hawke's team, which the sources call the Rat Patrol, is nearly overwhelmed.
Harry Brock is injured in the chaos, a knife wound sustained from a previous entanglement, and is immediately sent to call in heavy air support.
And Harry uses a sat phone from the cover of a dune to call for an AC-130 gunship. This decision is massively risky.
Hugely. It means violating sensitive Pakistani airspace, a move that could lead to a major international incident. But the nuclear device is the priority. It justifies the extreme operational breach.
And in the thick of the fighting, Hawke achieves his ultimate breakthrough. He locates the stolen nuclear device.
And it has been secured inside an aluminum coffin again, utilizing the symbolism of death to make it appear harmless, and transferred onto mules, which are now being led further up the mountain toward Wazizabad, the final stronghold.
So the location of the weapon is confirmed, the airstrike is imminent. But just as the global threat is about to be neutralized,
the domestic conspiracy executes its final terrible move.
The sheer speed of the narrative is astonishing here. Sir David Truelove immediately pulls Hawke and Stoke out of Pakistan on an RAF Hercules. While they were tracking the nuke in the Hindu Kush, the domestic threat, coordinated by the insider they should have suspected all along, reached its climax.
And Colonel Zazi, the Sandhurst graduate they were just fighting in the mountains, somehow beat them back to England.
Which proves the conspiracy's depth and coordination.
Absolutely. Zazi and forces from the SOA have executed the ultimate act of treason. They've taken the entire royal family, the Queen, Prince Charles, Wills, and Harry, plus key intelligence leaders, including C and Lord Malmsey, hostage at Balmoral Castle in Scotland.
The audacity of the attack is it's breathtaking. Zazi's demands are broadcast live on television.
Utilizing a highly symbolic and cynical setup, a Harrods delivery van equipped with sophisticated broadcast electronics. The image of the highest terror demands being broadcast from a luxury British icon is a stark message of defiance.
The hostages, including Charles's staff like Diana Mars and even Congreve, who's trapped there wearing a kilt, are held captive in a damp, dark cellar.
And the brutality of the SOA is immediately reinforced when Zazi executes an elderly female hostage on camera as a calculated display of force, horrifying the British public and demonstrating that this is a zero-tolerance operation.
So, Hawke and Stoke land and immediately link up with the SES team. The insertion strategy relies entirely on Hawke's deep personal knowledge of the castle, a knowledge gained during his privileged youth.
And Hawke's operational history is so crucial here. He spent half his childhood at Balmoral, running around the grounds, playing cowboys and Indians. He remembers an obscure, unlocked attic door.
The only silent entry point.
The only one. The SAS insertion is executed with precision. A parachute jump onto the roof of Balmoral from the Chinook helicopter, Rattler 1.
The SAS snipers are positioned, silently neutralizing the guards around the Queen's alcove, initiating the hostage rescue. The castle just explodes into chaos, but the plan seems to be working.
But the chaos of the assault creates the perfect cover for the ultimate act of betrayal.
In the middle of the fighting, one of the intelligence leaders is murdered, Sir David Truelove, the chief of MI6.
And the killer is revealed to be one of the hostages, an insider.
The traitor is unmasked. Montague Thorne, C's seemingly rakish expert protege, the man with the eye patch, he is the killer and definitively the pawn.
Thorne stands over the body of his superior, confirming his deep-seated, decades-old hatred for the British establishment.
And this is the moment where the entire narrative converges, tying the present threat right back to that historical wound we touched on earlier.
Thorne reveals his alias is Taboo. He explains that he was formerly a devout Muslim student in India who had revered Mountbatten, but he was utterly radicalized by the trauma of the 1947 partition, which he blamed squarely on the British and specifically on Mountbatten.
Thorne, or Taboo, accuses Mountbatten of leaving India to drown in a sea of blood and dedicated his entire life to vengeance.
And he confirms it. The 1979 assassination of Mountbatten was his first act, using the IRA as a shield. Now he stands ready to complete his purpose. His final chilling goal, announced directly to Prince Charles, is simple. Pawn takes queen.
The connection is staggering. The biggest threat was not the foreign warlord with the nuclear bomb.
No. It was the ultimate insider, the MI6 expert who not only provided intelligence and material to Zazi and the SOA, which explains the British uniforms in the Hindu Kush, but who also acted as the political assassination vector dating back over 40 years.
Thorne's betrayal is based on a profound personal perception of historical betrayal. His rage over the partition wasn't just political, it was existential. He became a high-functioning, deep-cover operative within the very system he was dedicated to destroying.
The sources conclude this primary confrontation with Hawke pursuing Thorne into the Queen's library. Thorne is trapped, and Hawke is now utilizing his superior knowledge of the structure, relying on a common wall advantage to end the threat.
And while the final outcome of that specific confrontation is implied, that the threat is neutralized, the larger conflict ends successfully.
It does. The SAS secure the remaining royal hostages and neutralize the terror force at Balmoral, mirroring the successful neutralization of the nuclear device in the Hindu Kush.
This deep dive has spanned centuries of conflict and massive geographic distance, revealing a staggering complexity. We started with the broken agent Alex Hawke, wrestling with his ghosts in Bermuda. We tracked the emergence of the SOA and the hunt for a stolen tactical nuclear weapon, and we concluded with the shocking defeat of Colonel Zazi and the unmasking of Montague Thorne, the ultimate insider traitor.
And what this unmasking revealed is the terrible, long-lasting consequence of historical trauma. The devastating 1947 partition of India, a geopolitical tragedy, fueled a decades-long high-level conspiracy against the British Crown, culminating in the infiltration of MI6 by Thorne, who leveraged his position to create chaos both at home and abroad.
We watched Hawke, driven by the hot, visceral need to kill those responsible for his own lifetime of horrific laces, the murders of his parents, the deaths of his two great loves. His pursuit of justice was a furious, almost desperate attempt to find meaning through duty and violence.
But we also saw his enemy, Thorne, or Taboo, who was equally driven by a profound personal sense of loss and betrayal. The loss of his country's unity and the perceived betrayal by his childhood hero, Mountbatten.
His initial reverence was replaced by a hot lust for revenge that defined his career and his life.
So both the hero and the villain in this epic deep dive were, at their core, defined by their inability to move past overwhelming personal tragedy and anger.
And this raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider as you reflect on this extraordinary mission.
If the relentless pursuit of vengeance defines the life of both the hero and his enemy, can any victory, however vital for national security, whether saving the crown or stopping a nuclear device, ever truly bring peace to the one who fights the war? Because Hawke successfully completed his duty, but his profound unresolved grief, like Thorne's final rage, remains an enduring, defining force.